Welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon, a company run by Joe Ross, former Army fullback, former Army coach, and former Army officer. Real quick, we have Steve Anderson here. We have Seth Mendelson, and we have Brendan in Jersey. We're going to recap the Coastal Carolina game, Army's 28-21 win. But first off, I want to give a shout out. This is a Joe Ross connection here. Pat Work, former Army football player who was a captain with Joe Ross in 1994, I believe. Pat Work assumed command of the 82nd Airborne Division on Friday, I think it was. He assumed command. I wrote a story about it for the website, and that story is the most clicked story I think we've ever had on the Black Knight Nation website. The interaction with it has been incredible. That tells you how well respected Pat is. Steve, I don't know if you've ever had any contact with Pat Work. We had him as a guest on the podcast 2 years ago. I posted that within the story. I don't know if you've ever run into Pat on the military side, but I know to get that position, he's a pretty well-respected guy. So I don't know if you had any quick thoughts on that before we review the game.
No, I echoed everything you say. I mean, everybody who's worked with Pat knows a very intense individual, and you're going to come to work. I think if you watch his incoming change of command speech, it says everything about him as a leader. And I don't know if you guys have watched it, but it was on the internet. And you have all these generals talking, and then they hand it off to General Work, and General Work literally just says, he just takes command of the 82nd. He just says, y'all look, I'm paraphrasing, but y'all look great, but you also know leaders' actions speak more than their words. Let's get ready to get to work. And that's it. That was his entire speech.
Wow. Pretty short and sweet. Yeah.
I think a lot says to that. That's just who he is, down to his core. And that's how, talking to my mentors, that's how he was as a player. And that's what he's been as a leader. I actually got to serve in the Iron Rakkasans, 3187, 3rd Brigade, 101st Airborne Division. And that was a battalion he commanded when he was a lieutenant colonel. And actually was the first unit I tried to go to out of the academy. And then they ended up deploying, and he just told me to go somewhere else. But, yeah, a lot of good stories about General Pat Work. And glad that he's part of the Brotherhood for sure.
No doubt. I have to step away for a second, so I'll let you guys carry on some conversation. Maybe we'll get your opening thoughts on the Army. Again, congratulations to Pat Work on assuming the command of the 82nd Airborne Division. And now maybe maybe you could start us off with some thoughts on that 28-21 win against Coastal. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no. So 28-21 win. They decided to make sure we tuned in to the very last minute, which was great. I couldn't step away because I had to make sure we won. I didn't want to move too much to jeopardize, right? All my, whatever you call it, things that I have. But I think the big thing here, and I'll turn it over to Brandon here in a second because Brandon or Seth probably want to talk about it, but. We did some under center, huh? How about that? We did some under center, and I think it's kind of the natural. I mean, at least for me, I felt like this was always a natural progression that we would eventually get to after we got the offense down. I mean, I really do believe that this was always the plan, was to be a hybrid, but we couldn't go to it until the coaches felt comfortable enough that we knew exactly how to operate out of the shotgun. And I thought for the most part in this game, I think we went under center when it was, what do you even call common sense or, appropriate. And we stayed in our base shotgun offense when I thought it was appropriate. So, turn it over to you guys.
Brendan, go
ahead. So I ended up tuning into the game about 20 minutes in, so it was 7-7 by the time I was up and running, which didn't surprise me. That's kind of how I figured the first quarter would go. But then when I noticed that they were running pretty much everything from under center, I was like, oh, I guess it really is senior day. going Back to the Future to turn a phrase, but kind of the two major takeaways I have. One is I kind of got what I wanted in the opposite way that I expected. Because really, I just wanted the offense to look good heading into Navy. Especially the passing offense, which they didn't really do. But hey, the offense looked great for the most part yesterday. Like every unit showed out. I would say this only special teams was like I would say perfect. But definitely, all three phases balled out, and then kind of the second big takeaway for me is, and I wish I could remember who's kind of like said the thing that got me on this train of thought, so I could properly credit them. But it was in some chat that I was reading. But to me, Army going under center for this game is like a big shot at Navy. It's I'm going to make an analogy here. This is like real history nerd stuff, but there are certain historians who, when they look at the dropping of the atomic bomb on Japan, it's like that what they read is those bombs were physically dropped on Japan, but psychologically dropped on Russia, saying, hey, like, don't mess with us. And I think going under center in yesterday's game was a big shot at Navy, saying like, hey, we can on a whim basically do what you're trying to do on offense and do it better and do it against a way better opponent than you've beaten this season. So be prepared for that, in addition to everything else that we've installed this season, and good luck. So that's my big takeaways.
Go ahead, Seth.
I'll go now. I was in the press box, and you're not allowed to cheer in the press box. We get yelled at, and last game somebody got yelled at. Wasn't me. But I got to tell you, everybody was super shocked and super surprised, and at the end, super happy. All the Army fans, and a lot of us up there, with what happened. I think they went to they went to this under the center offense from the get-go. The coach Monken made it clear to us afterwards that they were going to do it and see how it goes, and it went so well they never walked away from it. I think they only had one play shotgun.
Yeah, that Champ Harris play right out of the shotgun at the end of the first half. Yeah,
I think my opinion is they wanted to win the game. Of course they want to send a message to Navy, and we'll see what happens. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We'll see what happens in the Navy game. It's going to be tough to do both here because you have. Well, we'll talk about that, but they wanted to win this game, and this was a way for them to win the game. We had the performance of Riley, of Buchanan, of our quarterback was just spectacular. Daly was just unbelievably well played. The offensive line played, in my opinion, the best game they played all year. Sal, no holding calls? I don't think any holding calls.
Yeah, I can't remember one.
Yeah.
I can't remember one.
No holding calls after 5 last week, 3 on one player. And I'll tell you so, I watched that one player. He played a great game yesterday. So I thought I was very impressed with what Monken did in a week. He walked away from the offense that he had for this year. He committed to it. And maybe they've been practicing for more than a week. I don't know, but he installed a different offense, and it worked, and it shocked everybody. My lead in the story on Black Knight Nation is surprise, 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 and I was pleasantly surprised. We saw the first. I'll finish on this. We saw the first play, and we also under center, and then the second play, and then the third play, and it was working. So. Hey, kudos to the coach and kudos to the players because they did great.
Yeah, my opinion is going to be a little bit unpopular, I think. Just a little bit different. I think that this is something that they could have gone to earlier in the season. If you can prepare for this in a week, there's no reason why you could have inserted a few plays here and there in the bye week or, going into Troy. I guess they figured that or UMass. I guess they figured their offense was going to be okay against those teams. It wasn't. I mean, when your offense is scoring 1 or less touchdowns in 4 out of your 30 of your games, why did you wait till week 11 to do this? Did you wait till week 11 to install it so it could be ready for Navy? Maybe that's the case. I'm not sure, but I think that if you had installed a little bit of this offense earlier, maybe there'd be some different outcomes, and maybe you wouldn't have to be hoping for this or that to potentially play in the postseason and stuff. So, I mean, that's my take. I think that, Coach Munkin said in the last 2 days of practice that they had before Coastal Carolina, they ran about, my math is probably off on this. I think they ran about 120 scripted plays and 36 were like under center, if my math is right. So about a fourth of the plays in practice. So I guess they weren't anticipating using it all game. But, another thing we got to get to is Cody Worley calling the plays, the quarterback's coach calling the plays from the sideline. All the under center plays came from Cody Worley, not Drew Thatcher, per Jeff Munkin in his press conference. And so, we'll see what happens. Cody Worley did have experience. He called the bowl game in 2021 when they played West Virginia because Brent Davis was had COVID. So it wasn't his first game calling plays for Army, but seemed to be pretty good for me. It seemed like, I forget, I was watching, Seth, I might have been up in the press box in the third quarter, maybe not, but there was a play where they had a big run, right? I think it was a Riley big run. And then they followed it with a pitch play on the next play. I'm like, yes, that's how you call the play. You soften them up on the inside, and then you get to the outside. You don't try and end around on first down to begin the game. You don't do that stuff. You're not fooling anybody. It was sense. It made sense. The play calling made sense on Saturday. That's
so can I ask the question? You think it's possible that Munkin just got tired of the shotgun? I'll ask all you guys. Is it possible that he finally said, I've seen enough, let's give this a try, and if it didn't work, we go back to the shotgun? But like after being 4-6, and listen, that game against Holy Cross was kind of a difficult game. They had a chance.
It shouldn't have been a difficult game,
right? It should not have been. Is it possible that after losing to UMass, and then just barely beating Holy Cross, that maybe he said, it's enough here. Let's try something else. Let's see if this works. If it doesn't in the second quarter, or maybe at halftime, we'll go back to the shotgun. That's what I think he did. He kind of gave up on this.
Real quick, and we'll get Stephen Brendan's take on this. He told Tony Marino after the game. Tony Marino posted it on his Twitter account. He's a good follow on Twitter X. He's a sideline reporter for Army. He told Tony Marino they were just not being productive out of the shotgun offense. They need to try something else. They need to put points on the board, So this is a way that they thought they could chew up clock. They could tire out the opposing's defense. They can keep the opponent's offense off the field, and it worked. So I'll let Stephen Brendan chime in.
Go ahead, Brendan.
So Sal, I definitely agree with you that like what they did yesterday opens up questions about the season, and I think it's fair to ask that. However, I would say, the teams they've beaten, other than Coastal, UTSA quality, Air Force quality. So it's like they have beaten quality teams with the shotgun offense this season. And I also know that the whole program and the coaching staff, they put the Navy game on another level, and they are willing to make sacrifices earlier in the season if it means having an extra trick in their bag against Navy. And football coaches across the country sometimes do crazy things. I don't know if I've ever shared this anecdote before, but my high school alma mater, and this was some years after I had graduated, but they were in a state sectional title game in New Jersey. So it was as far as they could go at the time. I think they were even leading at halftime of the state sectional game, but they had a couple of like close calls over the years, and they just wanted to make sure that they were going to do everything to finish the job. So in the second half of the game, they come out in a wildcat offense that they have not shown like ever in the history of the program, and they steamroll their way, to get the victory. So, coaches' decisions can seem arbitrary and unreasonable to us fans at times. But I mean, listen, if we if Army beats Navy and the CIC trophy is going home to West Point at the end of the season, I can forgive a lot of things. So
Very true. Very true. What do you think, Steve?
Well, again, we're fanatics, right? That's why they call us fans. So we're gonna be poking holes and everything. I agree with Brandon. We've had some great wins this year in the shotgun. Do I think this was the first week we've gone under center to do this? No. I think it's always been part of the. I think it's always been part of the kit. 20% of the plays, 10% of the plays, and I think there's probably a combination of, hey, let's go under center today to start the game. Let's just see how it goes, and we just kind of went with how it went. I think there is something to Brandon's point of, just reminding Navy, hey, we do this just fine. So good luck practicing the next couple weeks and figuring out which way we're going to come out or how you're going to defend us when we do come out. But overall, for me, more than anything, I just really enjoyed watching all 11 players on offense be comfortable. It was extremely comfortable. It was very evident that they all were very comfortable in that offense. I always go back to unconscious competence, right? A lot of muscle memory. There wasn't a lot of, like we said, no holding calls or one, I think, or maybe zero. But it was back to that kind of unconscious competence where we're going to call a play, you're going to snap the ball, and you're going to do exactly what you know how to do because you've done it 10,000 times. So that was refreshing for me. And then as I look at from a defensive player's mindset of, well, shit, they just annihilated Air Force with a different offense, and then they just punched Coastal Carolina in the mouth with this offense. So now I've got, basically twice as long to prepare, or I've got twice as much to prepare for, and make sure my guy, because there's a different mindset in both those offenses. I know we want to pretend that there's not a different mindset in both those offenses. Like, we're still Army football, we're still running the ball, we're still RPO, and it is 100% different when you got old Buchanan 260 coming at you in 1 second versus, a play that takes time to develop. So as a defensive player, it makes me extremely excited that Navy has to figure that shit out. But as a fanatic, right, as a fan, I really enjoyed just watching Army's offense just feel very relaxed and doing something that obviously came natural to him.
Yeah, you know what? I guess the players were asked, Tyson Riley and Bryson Daly were at the post-game press conference. They were asked, well, hey, how did you do this? And, Bryson Daly said, hey, the banked reps, right? The banked reps that they've been doing it for, look at how many and Coach Munkin said, how many times have Tyson Riley and Jacoby Buchanan run those plays in their Army careers? 1,000? Over 1,000 times?
Oh, my God. 10,000. Easily 10,000.
They could probably run those plays in their sleep. They could probably close their eyes and probably found the hole in that.
Those two have been waiting for that play to be called all year. Okay, it's not like that. That's like, oh, it's not like that play was called when they were in the huddle and like, oh shoot, what do I do? They were like, oh, I've done this 10,000 more times in my head waiting for you guys to call this for me.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, like, you got to give. So it's senior day, right? And Tyson Riley, Jacoby Buchanan are both playing their final game at Mikey. Ijon Marshall's playing his final game at Mikey. They're back to playing that, under center. We'll call it flex bone, whatever variation they were using on Saturday. And it just felt right? It just felt like old times, and it just felt like, man, it's got those guys, Tyson Riley and Jacoby Buchanan. They made some major sacrifices this year. Maybe sacrifices is the wrong word, but Jacoby's mostly a blocking back this year. Tyson's going to play H-back and be a tight end and catch 2 touchdown passes. He had 3 carries sets, 3 carries in the opener, no carries until Coastal Carolina. And he just picks up, the fact that they're able to do that. And yes, we know they have the bank reps, but you still got to go out on the field and complete the play, right? And finish the play. And Coastal Carolina's defense is pretty athletic. No, they weren't ready for it, but they're not. They're pretty decent defense. So
it just goes back
well,
to
I think this shows why Army did not use these guys during the regular season as much as they did in the past. They're big. They're not that fast, especially Buchanan's not that fast. And they went with speed because they needed to, because you're lining up with the quarterback 5-6 yards behind center. And you need everything has to be speed because you have those 5-6 yards to make up. Suddenly they're lining up differently here, and now you can go with power. And the power worked. It's going to be interesting to see which one of these offenses they utilize, because they can't do both, because you're going to have 2 different guys calling the offense now. You're going to have Thatcher calling if they go with the shotgun, and you're going to have, what's his name, Cody?
Seth, Cody Worley. Cody
Worley. You're going to have him calling the plays if they go with the under the center. So it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be easy to switch back and forth. Almost impossible.
You know what?
Go ahead, Brendan.
That's no more crazy to me than sending in a quarterback on each different series, which we've seen to various effectiveness over the past few years. I don't know. I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm just kind of like, listen, like whatever alchemy they want to try, if it works and they kick Navy's ass, like I don't really care.
No, you're right. You're right.
Well,
that's what it comes down to, winning.
Steve, go ahead.
I want to go back for a second because, look, there's a lot of, and we're kind of used to seeing it here at Army and across the board, but there's not a lot of players that can be the focal point of an offense for 2 to 3 years and then just essentially get, pushed aside and say, hey, we're changing everything up. And then in arguably one of the largest games of the year, say, hey, we're calling on you again, and the guys are ready. I think it just goes back to a testament of what kind of people and what kind of players Army football has throughout their formation. And look, I'm a little biased, of course, but that is not something you'll see a lot of 19, 20, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds be able to handle throughout their careers. It's, what they could have easily, well, not them because of West Point, but most likely if the transfer portal was open, those guys would have been gone in a heartbeat when spring install came in. So love seeing that. Love that. I saw the comment about Ijon. Like, love that he got TD. Love Riley and Buchanan getting the mix on senior. Poetic in a sense. And, we've got these, back to your guys' point, we've got these 2 offenses now that we've seen a lot of we've had a lot of success, and we have a very small survey size of success in one offense. And then we have, basically the 50-50 offense, where a lot of times, from my point of view, like the defense has helped out the shotgun offense quite a bit throughout the season. I I agree with Brandon. Hey, whatever concoction they want to do, we've got 2 weeks.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's make sure that the concoction is right, and let's go execute.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. They got plenty of time to prepare. Yeah, they're going to give the guys a break during the Thanksgiving holiday, but they're going to give the guys probably a plan in their minds of what they're going to do against Navy, and they're going to do the mental reps while they're gone, and then come back and get ready to roll. Let's get a comment up here real quick. Art saying, I can see Army being competitive in the AAC. Do you see them being able to contend for an AAC title in one of those special seasons where everything comes together like 2018?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yeah. Yeah, because even this year and last year well, not so much last year, but I guess more this year, although last year they went toe to toe with Troy, who was a really, really quality Power 5 team, probably should have won that game. And, they beat UTSA this year. UTSA might be in the AAC championship game. They beat Coastal, who might be in the Sun Belt championship game. And, I think they've shown that they can certainly beat the teams, who are the towards the 90th percentile of the group of 5 on a fairly consistent basis. At the at the end of the day, it's it comes down to blocking and tackling and especially turnovers. For as much as people have been piling on the offensive change this year, it's mostly been turnovers. Pretty much, I would say, pretty much unrelated to whatever offense you're running. It's turnovers down the field when guys aren't covering up the ball in traffic, and fumbling it.
Old as time. The tale of old as time, man.
Yeah,
Football.
Yeah, I've certainly. I know you've talked about this, Steve, where it's at the end of the day, it's compete level counts for a lot, and I know I've said this before. I've seen Army go toe to toe with Iowa State and Texas A&M running a pro style offense. So there's a lot for showing up and just kicking ass.
Yeah, let's get to another comment before we talk more about the Coastal game.
Yeah,
Mike Fulowski, excellent offensive performance, and our most talented running back, Guido, didn't even play. Well, he's the most talented running back maybe in that shotgun, the gun option, but, certainly Tyson Riley. I just saw, how Jeff Monken gives out, the team gets out their Players of the Week awards. Tyson Riley got the Offensive Player of the Week award, and it says RB/H-back Tyson Riley on the write up, man. Hey, put him at quarterback, probably put him at, you could probably put him in a lot of places on the field, and Tyson Riley would have got the job done. So real quick, I wanted to talk about the special teams again against Coastal. Jabril Williams involved again in second straight week, involved in a block punt. This time Brett Jarena gets the block. Jabril Williams bounces right to him. He returns it for a touchdown. Big play in the game, right, Seth? Big. You can't win the game without it, probably.
Puts Army up 21-7. Very impressed. Very impressive thing. And I agree with you. Special teams did their job again, like they did against Holy Cross and for much of the season. All the extra points were made. There were no field goal attempts. We talked to the press box about whether they should have went for it on that fourth and was it 1 or 2 in the fourth quarter. They decided to go for it instead of kicking the field goal. But that was an easy chip shot. Hopefully he would have made it if he had the chance, but he didn't get the chance. And but having said that, special teams did everything they were supposed to do again.
I watched that play from the stands. I was in the stands for most of the game. I thought Noah Short might have got his hand might have blocked that punt. I'm like, oh no, it's the Noah Short, Jabril Williams connection from the Navy game last year again, right? But it was Brett Jarena. I incorrectly credited Noah Short on Twitter when I'm on my phone in the stands trying to do some updates and stuff. But man, Jabril, Steve, do you remember a guy on special teams? I'm trying to think. I know Andre Carter was able to block some field goals and stuff like that, but to block punts or be involved in the punt block like Jabril Williams has been the last 2 years, I can't really recall in recent memory a guy like that on special teams.
Yeah, no, I mean, we had Victor Eugeni was pretty good at it. We used to put him, you know, he's a DN by trade, but we used to put him in the middle, get a push with like guys like Ted Bentler and Mike Gann, and then Vic, you know, big 6'5", 6'6" guy, a little bit of vert, stick that 7-foot reach up. He used to get some blocks, not like these guys are doing it, but he was always pretty effective. And I don't remember how many, but he was part of quite a few back in the day. And other than that, you know, before he was involved in a lot as an underclassman before he didn't play that much. But a guy named Rod Murray, when we were freshmen and sophomores, he was always around blocking punts, blocking field goals, quite a bit. But you know, his he couldn't play junior and senior. But other than that, no, I mean it's there is no more momentum shifting play in football. I don't care if it's a 80-yard touchdown on offense or, you know, a pick six. When you don't have the offense and defense out there and the special team makes a play, it erupts everybody. Yeah. It gets everybody fired up, and it can be game changing. And you know, Seth's point, I don't think we win the game without it.
No. And here's Mike Fulowski saying Xavier Moss blocked a few punts a few years back. In the Army Navy game, I think either he blocked a punt or Josh Jenkins blocked a punt, and the other one returned it for a touchdown. I forget.
Jenkins blocked it, and Moss scored the touchdown. I didn't just recall that. I had just happened to be looking it up.
Yeah. No, I remember it in my head. I remember reliving it a little bit. But Josh Jenkins was a pretty good guy to go after punts too. Yep. But Jabril Williams is only a sophomore. You know, and he is a guy who's probably like the third guy on corners, but to make that impact on special teams, I mean, is pretty impressive. He's a guy from Illinois, Joliet, Illinois. I believe that's Jeff Monken's hometown. I could be wrong. I think Jeff Monken grew up around that area, and man, they found a really special teams ace in Jabril Williams, and I think that's key. Real quick, Steve, what did you see from the defense in this game in the Coastal win?
Man, Leo Lowen, man, he's all over the field. Really fun kid to watch. What I did like, what I thought personally from defense was they had big plays, right? Like Coastal had some big plays, but I don't think they dominated the line of scrimmage. I feel like Army dominated the line of scrimmage. I think they had one or two like sustainable drives that were, you know, really like, oh man, like we got to hold our ground here. But really it was the big play. And honestly, going back and watching those big plays, you know, as much as I don't really like to say this, I just think those guys were better than our guys on those plays. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see like a misassignment or miscommunication or some confusion out there. I just think their players made better plays on that play. And, like they gashed us and took it to the house and, you know, made us go back, you know, with our tail between our legs. Like, okay, well, we can't let that happen again, even though I think it did happen again. But other than that, I think it was just you know, basically, you know, their players just outplayed us on that play, or our guys got caught looking the wrong spot, which, you know, we have, you know, I would say across the board, that that can happen with a younger team, and trying to make something happen where you don't necessarily need it to happen.
Yeah, Jared Brown had that big play, 59 yards for Coastal's first touchdown.
Yeah.
The jump ball in the end zone, I mean, Sam Pinckney made a play. Casey Larkin was underneath them. Sam Pinckney went up and got it, Not much you can do there, really. And, it comes down to an onside kick, but, this game comes down to an onside kick with under a minute left, so.
Well, let's talk about the interception in the end zone, which I think was caused by the defensive line pushing their quarterback into a corner there as he came around, and he really had no place else to throw the ball. He either had to throw it out of bounds or eat it or whatever. But they forced him into throwing it, and Hammonds was there again to make a touchdown saving interception. I mean, I don't know if the other guy would have caught it or whatnot, but that would have tied the score. If my memory is correct, I think that would have tied it at 21 if they would have scored there. Instead, it's now 21-14. Army comes down and takes a 28-14 lead, and they score late, and it comes down, like you said, it comes down to the onside kick, which nobody wants anything to come down to. You don't want it coming down to the onside kick. You'll take it if there's no other choice. But the bottom line is they dominated that. The two key plays to me, the three key things to me was the offense, total offense, the block punt for a touchdown, and then that interception changed everything.
Yeah, Q Hammonds has really stepped it up. Third pick of the season. He's making plays. He's almost providing that presence that Marquel Broughton was providing in the last couple of years. He's all over the place. He's really quick. I don't think he had a sack this game, but he's definitely shown the ability to come on blitzes and that kind of stuff. I had somebody just text me, a friend that is an Army fan, and he said our D was finally rested as only this offense can provide. So, I mean, when you're on the field the first 8 minutes on offense and your D doesn't have to get up to halfway through the first quarter and play, that kind of helps a little bit. I think 6 plays in the first quarter for Coastal, something to that effect. So
Leo Lowen in the press conference said that. He goes, we were rested. It felt good. We felt confident because we knew the offense was out there, doing it for us. And, they had the ball for almost 40 minutes out of it in a 60-minute game, the offense. The defense is pretty well rested. And the other offense is panicking because they know that if they give up the ball, Army's going to keep it for 4 or 5 minutes. More than that, by saying 6 or 7 or 8 minutes. And they did almost every time, except for that one fumble, except for the fumble in the fourth quarter. Army kept they just drove all over the place.
Yeah, a lot of game within the game, psychological things that go into, like you said, Seth, like how offenses and defenses kind of change their mindsets a little bit when a team's just controlling the clock. And I don't. This isn't the first game we've controlled the clock throughout the year. We've had games where we've controlled the clock. It's just the entire thing, right? It's now this unknown. Now it's this like, kind of like what Brandon talked about is like blast from the past kind of deal where now teams are like I'm sure there was a point where Coastal Carolina's coaching staff was like, oh shit. Like, God, all right, we gotta get the ball back, and then they get the ball back, and they don't get the ball back for 8-10 minutes, and now it's the score gets away a little bit, and coaching staff start to get like that, and it's has a psychological effect on how coaches start calling plays and forcing things because they have to, and the second, third order effects of it, and. As I go back and I think about why do we go under center, and it's something that we've committed to this entire time, where there's been plenty of opportunities to go under center and succeed and probably get a couple victories if we just kind of mix and match it a little bit. Why do it this week? And I think it just goes back to coach just wanted to win, and he was going to do whatever it took to win. Get rid of Navy in 2 weeks. Get rid of trying to install this new offense and like this is where we're going and this is our vision. I think Coach Monken was like, look, I want to freaking win, man. And you know what? We're gonna do whatever it takes to win. And I just it literally still blows my mind that after this entire season, we go against Coastal Carolina and we all of a sudden we're under center. I just like, whoa.
Steve, to what you were saying earlier about the defense, though, all 3 of Coastal's touchdowns came on big plays outside the red zone.
Yeah,
and they had another big play to put them inside the red zone, which Q Hammonds had the chase down to push him out at the 17, and then ultimately having to fight in that enclosed space allowed Army's defense to be able to fight back and ultimately get the interception in the end zone.
Just absolutely. Just want to welcome L to the podcast in our review. Huge win. Coastal not ready. Thanks, L. We got to get. I think it's a new person joining in here. Yeah, great point, Brendan, on the long plays and then the Army buckling down, right? And man, we're talking about Q Hammonds a lot toward the end of the season. I'll tell you that much. He's really his game's been pretty strong. And you know what, Steve, on your take there about Coach Monken just wanting to win. It's the last game for these seniors, right? These seniors have put a lot. This senior class has put in a lot into the program. They were freshmen during the COVID season, right? And some of these guys got on the field because they just didn't have enough healthy bodies in the COVID season. Some of these guys were forced to play early. Some of these guys are 5-year guys who've been with the program a little longer than those freshmen in 2020. And you know what? They put a lot into this team. And I'm just going to say it right now. They deserved better this year. They deserved a little bit better than the record was this year. They're 5-6. They deserved a little bit better. And Coach Monken said, hey, sometimes our coaches did not put them in the right place to succeed. Yes, I know players have to make plays on the field. I know that's a point. But I think that another one was that Coach Monken wanted to send this senior class. I mean, senior classes are all like unique in their own way, and their own special in their own way to coaches. But I think maybe he also wants to send his senior class out with a good memory at Mikey too. And by going to that offense, there you go. And then you have, the offense has to do their job. The defense, when you're called upon, when you're on the field, which won't be as much as you have been, do your job, and then get that boost from special teams, and you win the game. So I think that has a lot to do. We could talk forever about it.
It goes back to the, kind of like the old saying, like if we score 28 points every game, we win. Our record's better than, what it is, right? So, kind of like the old thing was like, hey, get us, defense. I think for the longest time it was like, hey, defense, you hold them to 20, the offense is going to get 21. We're going to score 3 tugs, baby. So, hey, hold them to 20, and the offense will guarantee you 21. Especially in the new day and age where there's more points scored at higher rates, kind of deal. But that is kind of how I really felt like this game just kind of like the offense looked comfortable, which then fed into special teams, was fed into the defense. Yeah, again, like I said, I honestly believe like those, like really you take away those 3 plays, they weren't like slamming the ball and controlling the line of scrimmage. 90% of the time our guys had eyes, feet, alignment, all in the right spot. So I just I just find it super interesting, and there might have been, I don't know, like I kind of feel like coaches are I know Coach Monken is a passionate guy. I feel like they're a little, I guess at West Point it's different, but I kind of feel like coaches, for the most part, like are about the program and less about the players, so to speak. Like not real emotionally tied, making decisions based on players because they've got another year and another year and another year to look at. But I know West Point's special. I know Coach Monken cares about those guys. It's hard not to. at a place at West Point. But yeah, no, it's they definitely whatever the conversation was had during that week, they made the right one, and look forward to how they come out against Navy for sure.
Yeah, a couple quick things. Want to just give a little bit of a shout out to senior defensive lineman Nate Smith. He batted down a couple balls in that and passes in that game that were pretty key plays. He's been playing banged up, I think, a lot, and give Nate Smith some credit. Also want to give Mike Vitti a shout out because talking to Tyson Riley, he was saying how Mike Vitti was going over these plays in the under center option with Jacoby Buchanan, him and Markel Johnson that Friday night before, the game. And if they saw certain things that Coastal was showing, here's what you guys should do, or suggestions, so to speak. So, a former fullback helping out the other. Mike Vitti's technically the offensive line coach, right? But he coached the B-backs at Army. He coached that B-back stable that had Davidson, Woolfolk, Slumka, Holt, McCoy. That was his iron horses, right? Those were his iron horses. And on Saturday, I mean, maybe the 2023 version of the iron horses really came through for Army. And so just wanted to give Mike V. It seemed like Coach Munkin said it was really a team effort by the coaches on the offensive side of the ball. Just everybody coming together. When you're making a decision like that in 1 week to go to something different or something that you've done before but haven't done this year, everybody has to be on board. So
let's not pretend that egos didn't have to be put in check that week either. All right, like you're talking about the guy you brought in to be the offensive coordinator, not calling plays on a Saturday, and he's just got to be okay with it. So talk about a team win, the offensive coaches coming together. That's what I think about is like, hey, that guy was like, yep, I got it, coach. Like, I'm going to do it.
Munkin mentioned that. He said that, he was proud of the way he handled it, that, he turned the duties over to somebody else. And and it was a team win. You're absolutely right, Steve. Very much so.
Yeah, relaying what he saw from the press box down to Worley, who was calling the plays from the sidelines. So, pretty much put a wrap on that Coastal game. If you got anything else you guys would like to add on that before we move on to what's next?
Well, one thing we definitely talked about last week is fourth downs. And Sal, you were kind of harping on them to go under center on fourth downs, and they only had one opportunity this game, and they didn't get it. And I think the problem is less with the formation and more, and credit to the As for Football guys. They mentioned this past week. I think the problem is more just there's not really they don't really have much of a wrinkle for their fourth down play calling anymore. It's just like always. It's always QB power in some form or another. Whereas before it was like, well, it might be the fullback, it might be the QB, and different running lanes and all kinds of that. And I think this year it's just sort of like, all right, QB power behind zone blocking. So personally, I wish they would have just gone for the field goal at that point in the game and try to go up 3 scores, especially seeing what being up 3 scores against Air Force did psychologically. But it's not my call at the end of the day.
I agree with you, Brent. I was shocked that they didn't line up for the field goal. Because you're going up 17 points. I think it was early in the fourth quarter, right, when this happened.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, and so they're controlling the ball. You're up 3 scores. It's a hard.
Plus, A, Moretzky's been pretty money this season, and B, like, why not give him a live rep, before heading into the last game? But anyway,
Brendan,
I don't want to harp on that too much.
He's made 7 straight field goals in Service Academy games. He doesn't need any live reps. But why did they run that fourth down play and run it like a little bit off tackle, like you said, like zone blocking? Why don't we just run behind the center? Why don't we just run behind the center on fourth down? enough. I'm done. That's all I have to say about that. So we're moving on. Hey, real quick. I was on the field for the alma mater, and before the alma mater, they could start playing the first tune of the alma mater. Coach Monken yells to the Corps cadets, "Beat Navy." So here we are. Army's next opponent is Navy, and the best college football rivalry going, right? The games have been really tight, especially last year's was really a great game, an overtime game, double overtime game, and you know what? Navy's probably better than last year, at least on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they've been juggling around quarterbacks, and we'll see who starts, and who knows who will start against Army. They still have a game to play against SMU this week coming up. But I mean, this could be another probably low-scoring affair, and probably another a fist fight in a telephone booth, as I think Jeff Monken has once referred to it. But what do you guys think about the next game coming up? It's the biggest game of the year, and with all the stakes up, Army wins, CIC trophy comes back to West Point. So
I'll go first. Navy's won the games it was supposed to win. They lost a game to Temple that they should have won. It's the only one. The teams that are better than Navy have beaten them. Their defense, like you said, the defense has been impressive. The Navy defense has been relatively impressive. They held a couple of games. I think they shut out 2 teams this year, right? This week, and I think once before, South Florida, and then
Charlotte.
Yeah, okay, so maybe 2 or 3 times. It's like a nice defense. Offensively, they seem to be a little bit lost. Their quarterback situation is not as strong as it has been in the past. But they're going to be up for this game, and Army's going to be up for this game. So who knows? It's always a great game.
Yeah, real quick, we want to get to Joe Greer's comment, but first I want to talk about Army season. We talked about this before, and maybe you guys can remember Brendan or Seth, but so they beaten, we talked about they beaten UTSA, Air Force, and Coastal. If I do the quick math, I think that's 24 wins 23 wins combined by those teams. They're 3 bowl teams. I'm trying to remember the last time Army beat 3 bowl teams in a season. Maybe it's those 2018, 2017 teams. I want to go back and look at those schedules, but I didn't get a chance to before the podcast. But like we said, Army's had a tough schedule. They've beaten 3 really tough teams. Probably their best win, Air Force. There's a comparable opponent. So, I mean, I'm guessing, will Army be the favorite in this game? We'll see what Vegas decides. But, it's interesting how I think at how Army's had you look at 5 and 6, but there's it goes a little bit deeper than 5 and 6 for the people that don't really, who are maybe the Navy fans or the people outside of the program that don't really follow the team as closely.
One thing's for sure, and that's to take the under. All right, we'll go ahead and go with that. These games are always so good, and you can throw the records out, throw everything you want to. What it's going to come down to is, right, Brandon, not turning the ball over, okay, and executing on 3rd down. We don't turn the ball over and execute on 3rd down offensively and defensively, and we're going to win the game. And that's out of any offense we run, and that's against any defensive set. We've got to do those 2 things, or really 3 if you count it on the defensive side of the ball as well, to ensure that we give ourselves the best opportunity to win the game. I think just watching I've watched a couple Navy games, and I've watched all the Army games. We're a better team than them this year, and we need to go out there and act like it. We need to go out there and make sure it's known early, and set the tone, and then we need to remind them frequently throughout the game, whether that's with big plays, or if that's just with consistent putting them in 3rd and long situations. So that's how I feel about it. I think that it's going to be a great game regardless. It's up in, Deathland, up in freaking who knows? I don't even know where that. I don't even know where that. I've never, I've been to UMass a few times. I've never been to Foxborough, but just absolutely, terrible decision. Hate it, and I'm not going to the game because of that.
Safe to say.
Sold my tickets, and I'll, be watching it from, my living room.
Steve, I agree with you about being a bad location. Up there, the tradition's not there. You put it in Philly, of course, and then Baltimore. And I went to the game in the Meadowlands a few years ago. You're getting fans, halfway, coming up from Washington, coming from New York, coming from, Philly. It's cool, but I'm concerned about whether the enthusiasm. I'm sure it will sell out, but the enthusiasm will be there.
It's sold out.
It'll be interesting.
I mean,
obviously, I'm biased about Baltimore. Love the city of Baltimore, charm city. But God, what are we doing? Taking it up there. It's like, come on.
Money talks.
It was almost in Dallas.
Hey, listen, if anybody who wants to pay the money to, get the Corps and the brigade out to wherever they need to, I don't really care where they play it. But and I'm not worried about the spirit. I know the game is sold out. I know grads and season ticket holders have had a tougher time than they've had in a long time trying to just get tickets for the game. The secondary ticket prices are off the wall, so I'm not worried about the stands being empty. But in terms of the game, I agree with Steve 100%. And on top of that, Monken, when they I think multiple times, various sideline reporters asked Monken yesterday, like, why the offensive change, and he was like, we weren't scoring enough points. So clearly he's obsessing about that, as I have been, that they're not scoring enough points in Service Academy games, and they need to do something to remedy that. And then that combined with the fact that Ken is no longer there, so Monken no longer has any reason to play nice on behalf of his longtime friends. So whatever psychological safeties that may have been in place before, safety is off. And really, I mean, this is such an important game. Like, this is such an important game for recruiting and stepping on Navy's neck, because they have already won 5 games this season. There's a little glimmer there. You have to stomp that out. You have to take their hope from them and stomp on their necks and say, no, you're the bad team now. We're the good team. You suck. We're better than you. We're going to come back next year and be even better. You have to stomp on their throats the whole game. And you have just, like, psychologically, you have to do it. You have to exercise all the demons. You have to, you got to win the CIC. I mean, famously, everybody remembers the Miracle on Ice, the game against the Russians, but they still had to beat, I think it was Finland, for the U.S. to win the gold medal in '80. And, I don't remember if it was before the game or in one of the intermissions, but at some point, Herb Brooks addressed the team and said, boys, if you lose this game, you'll take it to your effing grave. And that's that's how I'm feeling about this game.
I think extra motivation is, where does the trophy stay if they lose?
In Colorado Springs.
Oh, God. That's worse than anything, because everybody hates Air Force. So, you have a duty not only to do for Army fans, but for the rest of the world, the nation, to win this game so we can get that trophy out of Colorado Springs.
Well said. Well said. Man, Brendan, that was very passionate, man. That got me fired up. You got me fired up there. and we got a couple weeks for this. Hey, real quick, let's just get to these comments, and let's go right here. We talked about this before we came on, so let's hit it right now. And Navy is 5-5 and will be bowl qualified with a win over SMU. If they lose, they still qualify for a bowl with a win over Army. Will the bowls give a berth to the winner of the Army versus Navy game this year? Seth, you have a source. Tell us.
I have a source. A little birdie has talked to me and said that if Navy loses to SMU, they'll be 5-6. Both teams will be 5-6 going into the game, and that either CBS or ESPN, I think it's ESPN, but it could be CBS, wants the Army Navy game then to be a play-in game for a bowl berth for both teams. Now for Navy, they would qualify normally. The only problem is that all the bowl berths go out the week before the Army-Navy game. So they're going to have to reserve a spot. And that kind of makes sense. So they reserve a spot for the Army-Navy winner. They can say you're playing, Maryland or, Missouri, I don't know, anybody. And the winner of this game plays them. Otherwise, there's a chance if SMU beats Navy, and even if Navy beats Army, which we hope doesn't happen, that they will not get in because all the bowl bids might be given. So there's a chance here that this makes a little bit of sense. And also, Army and Navy do very well on TV ratings. It's national teams. And I'm sure they want Army, Navy, and Air Force to be in bowl games as much as possible. Doesn't make that much of a difference, but it makes a difference. It'd be interesting if this is hopefully the case. It's good for Army because they don't really qualify, even if they do beat Navy, because they have the two FCS games. You're only allowed to have one per year, and this year will be the end of that. With us going into the American next year, I assume they're not going to play two FCS teams in their other non-conference games. So it'll be interesting if this is the case, and they'll be talking about it the whole time. The announcers during the game will say, not only is this the Army-Navy game and bragging rights, but the winner gets to go play in the whatever bowl it might be, the Armed Forces Bowl. Army seems to go there quite a bit, or something like that. So it'll make it pretty exciting. It'll add to the excitement. It's exciting anyhow. It'll add to the excitement. All we need is some snow now, and it'll make it even more exciting.
Hey, real quick, L says, does Air Force have to fly the CIC trophy out to Boston so it's on its station when we joust that bad boy? Space A flight. Okay. Yeah, I mean it's going to be there. The CIC trophy is going to be there because if Army wins,
I think as long as it's in play, it has to be on site.
Yeah, it will be
just in case.
It'll be 100% at Foxborough.
Because I remember I was there. Like I remember the trophy was there in 2017. I can't remember if both teams had won a previous leg coming into that or not. But yeah, I think it has to be there.
Yeah, I think that 2017 Army beat Air Force already. So that meant that Navy Air Force Army Navy game probably would have determined the winner. Probably. Yeah. I'm not sure what Navy did. Real quick, L says we need to lobby hard to ensure JMU and Jacksonville State don't snake Army's 5-win bowl bid. So
Sal, I think.
Go ahead.
Sal, I think you and I are in agreement in terms of talking about Army's bowl chances. That listen, they lost to UMass at home. I'm not sifting through APRs and all that. Now, if it happens to work out at the end of the day after Championship Sunday and the playoff slots have all been decided, if it just so happens that there's a way where somebody can create that sort of a play-in berth that Seth Mendelson, I'm 100% for it. But, I mean, what can you do? Army knew the game coming into the season. They knew how many they had to beat against who, and they haven't gotten it done. So
wouldn't it be great though to get one extra game?
Of course it would. Of course it would be for all of the reasons for
Think about
recruiting, for the program,
think
for
about the
practice.
seniors, guys. Think about the seniors, okay?
Yeah. I'm
Go ahead, Steve.
saying I'm not going to do any speculative legwork on my end. If it happens, great. If not,
only way-
then it doesn't happen.
You know, to Seth's point, I think the only way truly it happens is if there is an open slot that somebody does not have a claim to, where there's just not enough 6-6 teams. There's no way. I don't care what any ratings say. That if Army beats Navy and there's a team that has earned a bowl bid, I don't care what anybody says. They're going to give it to the team that earned it. It's not going to be. They're not just going to be like, "Oh, Army trumps you" because they travel better or they get better ratings. So,
yeah, Brendan, you hit it right on the head.
We'll
with
see
me.
what happens.
I just don't think that, they haven't had a bowl season, in my opinion. Army, yeah, they beat 3 really good teams, but it doesn't seem like a bowl season to me.
yeah.
If they win the CIC, then we'll see. Then if there's openings and Seth's sources are correct, then
It's a bowl season in itself, baby.
it's true. Right now they're 1-0 in bowls. Steve, they're 1-0 in bowl games right now. They beat Air Force, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked about this the last time they're on. I mean, in terms of CIC standings, I think Air Force has won it 21 times. Navy's won it 16. Army's won it 9 times. There's your work to be done.
Yeah.
God,
Bulls are a nice, Sunday, or cherry on top of the Sunday, whatever metaphor you want. But I think compared to beating your big rivals,
super easy statement. Okay, would you rather win the CSC or go to a bowl game? All right, it's over.
With the CIC, no question.
Yeah, 99% probably would say CIC.
Yes, and this year they could possibly do both. Who knows?
All right.
Real quick.
Great.
This is our last. We'll get out after this. Brendan, did you see the tees today with the uniforms?
I did. I think I'm probably horribly wrong in my own prediction of Teddy Roosevelt tribute uniforms. But I will say, kind of the consensus I saw online was a lot of people were throwing out 3rd Infantry Division. It looks like that might be the case. But we'll see. I mean, it's always an exciting day when that hype video goes up online.
What's up, Steve?
3rd ID, Rock of the Marne is my first unit I served in.
Nice. Yeah, Navy, I think, is revealing their uniforms tomorrow. So I don't know when Army will reveal theirs. It's probably either tomorrow or Tuesday, probably before the holiday. We'll see. Looking forward to that. But guys, thanks so much.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what pajamas Under Armour has come up this year for Navy.
Yeah, it's
I agree with you.
Real quick, they say in the Army-Navy game, right? Army never loses a march on, right? They never lose a march on. I don't think they've ever lost a jersey, the jersey wars there, if you want to call them the jersey wars. I think Army's always had the better uniforms. Navy will claim they had the better helmets when they had the ships on the helmets or something like that. I don't know.
No.
Those were not very appealing.
No, I mean the last time both schools looked good was when both schools were under contract with Nike, because I think Nike was able to essentially plan out both sides.
Yeah.
But then Navy went to Under Armour, and then Nike started getting more involved with the history department at West Point, and it's just, to me, it's just been like a 100% landslide ever since.
Pretty much. Guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Pretty engaged conversation. We appreciate all the comments. Check out Black Knight Nation. We have Seth Mendelson's game story. Tons of photos by Lynn Firm from the Coastal Carolina game. A senior day photo gallery I just put up. I'm going to write something on Tyson Riley. We got to keep the copy going, even though Army's not going to play a game for a couple of weeks. We'll keep the stories going. Maybe throw Seth a couple stories on alums, and maybe try to get some alums on here to talk about the Army-Navy game coming up too. Steve, Brendan, Seth, thanks so much, and we'll see you guys soon.
Be Navy.